Hi there. Congratulations on achieving a sale. We're now unconditional. And I bet you're a bit excited, maybe a little bit apprehensive. Thank you for being patient with me up to this point. I know for many sellers this can be quite emotional and stressful. This is for most sellers the first time to really start to get excited. We're nearly there. And this brief 5-minute video is really important to go through it fully, as there's a lot of valuable material that I've put together after doing this for over a decade. And I've learned all the necessary pitfalls to avoid and the tips on how to make sure this is a happy ever after for you and for everyone. As much as you're excited, often neighbours, friends, even other real estate agents want to know, so what did you get? I'm old-fashioned and I suggest it's not in your best interest to tell them. My job is to protect you. You don't want the buyer to hear on the grapevine that they paid too much. Or you don't want well-meaning others to undermine your decision. If the deal does fall over, touch wood, you don't want to prejudice your chance to get this amount again or more. So when is the deal done? Well, I'm old-fashioned. The deal's not done until the money's in your bank account. So just work with me on this. This is here to protect you. As to settlement agents, I suggest a highly proactive role from you with your settlement agent. Ring them often and just say, is there anything else you need from me? This will help ensure settlement goes through on time. Make sure that you get paid in your bank account when you want it to be. With the transfer of land documents, please make sure these are signed and returned to your settlement agents as early as you can. They need to be done in original format, so if you have interstate and overseas banks, these will always take longer for original documents to get to them, so please get them in early. All settlement delays are either a hold up with the bank or one of the parties being slow in getting the documents in. As to miscellaneous inspections, sometimes the buyer asks for one of these to measure things like fridges or lounges. If they're requested, I'll try to give you as much notice as possible. I will also try to communicate to the buyer that it isn't a right and that obviously you're still living in the home. But really there's no harm in allowing one, and it does demonstrate a lot of goodwill. Usually you don't need to be there for that inspection, and if you agree to it, we'll facilitate that and we'll be there and we'll keep it as brief as we possibly can. Next one is a big one, and that's everything working. You as the seller have to guarantee that everything is in working order as per the contract. So all gas, electrical and plumbing must be demonstrated to be in working order at the final inspection. We'll talk about the final inspection soon because you're going to be asked to be there, but everything that's said in the contract has to be demonstrated. And unless we disclosed it in the contract that it wasn't working, then it will be expected to be working. We certainly don't want any delays in settlement, and so it's very important that we get this sorted out straight away. This includes, but is not limited to, things like alarm systems. We must have the alarm code there ready for the final inspection, please. Dig it out if you can. Hot water systems, if you could make sure that that's left on. All the plumbing, like the toilets, the taps, the showers. The buyer's going to turn them on, so if there's any dripping taps, this is the time to fix them. Intercom systems have to be working. All the pool cleaning equipment has to be working. Any air conditioning that we have. Dishwashers. If there's a spa, we'll need to fill that up with water on the final inspection and show that working. Any self-igniters on gas hot plates, that's a big one. Often those things aren't working. Well, they need to be working unless we disclose that up front. Range hood lights, the bulbs have to be working. All the downlights, if any of the downlights have blown, we need to fix those. All the power points, any reticulation pop-ups. This is just to name a few, but it gives you an idea of the level of detail we have to have prior to the final inspection. Now I know the deal's done, but there is an obligation on you as a seller to ensure that everything's kept in the same condition it was when the contract was signed. To act in good faith and to follow the joint forms of general conditions. That means that if the carpets were cleaned and whatever the condition was at the time of accepting the offer, we've got to leave it the same. It doesn't mean you have to have professional cleaners, but I'll run through that list of things with you now. So if the lawns were mowed and the pool was crystal clear, the windows were clear, and the gutters were empty, then that's what must be handed over at settlement. Equally, it's not permitted to remove any fixtures unless stated so in the contract. It's very important that what the buyer paid for is what was left with the home. If in doubt, please ask me. Now, as for keys, it is required that we have one key for every single lock in the home. So if you can please have all of those out and show them at the final inspection, that would be great, including all window locks and all remotes for garages and gates, please. The final inspection, I've found, is one of the most important parts of the whole process, and the final inspection does three things. It enables the buyer to have everything demonstrated as in working order, and that's the buyer's right. It's in the joint forms of general conditions, and so we have to do that, and it's important we do it well. The second thing it allows the buyer to ask questions about how does this work, how does that work, and so on. But the third thing, and I reckon the most important thing the final inspection does, it creates a lot of goodwill. I have for many years now, over 5 years, asked the buyer and seller both be at that meeting with myself as agent, and I just find there's so much goodwill. I find that buyers like to meet the sellers, but I also find the sellers like to know who's going to be acquiring their new home. And so it's actually a very happy time. It will take somewhere between 30 and 60 minutes. I encourage you to be there and look forward to it. It's a fantastic way to ensure that the whole process ends smoothly and happy for all parties. Let's talk about the 3-day grace period. It's a little known contractual right that in all property transactions in Western Australia, both the buyer and the seller automatically have the right to something referred to as the 3-day grace period. This is where they can delay settlement by up to 3 working days for any reason at all. Banks know it, settlement agents know it, brokers know it. So often the 3-day grace period can be a source of enormous angst for buyer or seller. I just need to flag this up front, and I need you to know that as an agent there's absolutely nothing that I can do to override the 3-day grace period. You as the seller have this right, but so does the buyer. And we'll talk more about settlement dates in terms of understanding this clause and how it might affect the actual settlement day itself. Perhaps as many as 20% of all settlements do not in fact happen on time. And this is generally either a delay caused by one of the banks, sometimes it's a delay caused by a settlement agent, sometimes it's one of the parties exercising their 3-day grace period. And I just need you to be aware of it. If in doubt, please ask me. So of course I'll be trying to get the buyer to act in good faith, but I do recommend that you have a backup plan or a plan B for moving day. I've seen owners or buyers get very upset when a settlement doesn't happen on the exact day, and it's almost always because they have no flexibility built into their plans. If you are the cause of a settlement delay by longer than 3 working days, be very careful, as there may be a penalty interest charge component that's flicked back to you as the seller. I know the system isn't perfect. It's the one that we have, so we all need to be flexible, organised and proactive. Now, on the subject of vacating, the joint forms of general conditions states the buyer is entitled to vacant possession at settlement. If you're living in the home, you must vacate by 12 p.m. the following day. I know it's tight, but we must find a way to get organised and be out of the home so that the new owner can move in by midday. So there we are. Thank you for the opportunity of being your agent. We're nearly there. I know it's a big job. Feel free to give me a call or have me drop by if you'd like any assistance. Thank you.